Everybody, and welcome back to Write the Damn Book Already. I think we're on episode like 164, which is crazy. I was making my coffee this morning and I remember when I was at episode 1. I mean, I don't remember, but I sort of remember the feeling of being at episode 1 and never thinking I would get to episode 164. And then thinking, gosh, this is so much like writing a book because you get started and you feel like you have so much momentum. And then you remember, oh God, I need X number thousand more words or chapters or plot points or whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden it feels like, how am I going to get there? And you get there one episode metaphorically at a time. So today, what I thought I would chat about, I'm actually working on, and I've made no secret of this, my seventh book. But what's different about this book is that it's my first fiction. And when I say my first fiction, I kind of mean my second. And the reason for that is the first one I wrote was so bad. I wrote it in, I think I finished it like, oh my, this is embarrassing. I think I finished it in 1998. And it, I won't ever, I don't even know where it is. Like, it doesn't live on a laptop or anything. I think I printed it out at one point, but I will never, I would probably be horrified. And at the same time, there might even be scenes I might strip or ideas I might strip, but nevertheless, and use for something else. So then I dove into 20 years of writing nonfiction, and predominantly what I work with authors on is nonfiction and memoir, although fiction a little bit more these days. And so I start in on my own novel, which has been an idea in my head for so long, I can't even tell you. But I actually started working on it probably 3 years ago. So when I come out eventually and say it took me 27 years to write the novel, that's not true, because when you start in, for example, the year 2000 and then you stop and you don't start writing again until 2026, it's not really fair to say it took 27 years. But that's what I do because sometimes I like to be dramatic about things. So I'm working on this novel and it has stalled more times than I can count. And what gets everyone off of the stall bus is entirely different. And so there is no right way to do it, but there are a million ways to do it, probably literally. And one of the things I love to talk about with authors in this podcast is when they hit that stall point, whatever that stall point is. It could be a plot issue, it could be a life issue of their own that takes them off course for a few weeks, months, or even years. Like, what brings them back? And many times it's a completely selfish question because I'm looking for something new to bring myself back. In my case, so I had laid out this. I've tried everything, by the way. I've tried plotting, pantsing, plantsing. Pretty sure I'm a plantser. I've outlined. I've written from the middle. I've written from the end, but I couldn't write from the end actually because I still don't know exactly what the ending. I have a loose idea of the ending. It's getting more concrete in my head, but that's only as of recently. I have tried, I mean, I have all the things. So I was continuing to stall until, and this is, again, this is not the magic solution. What I'm so often encouraging people to do is like find your magic solution, which it can change from book to book, which is really frustrating, but it's just what it is. My solution for this has been to get other people on board. And I was talking, in fact, I've done a couple of reels recently, and I'm sure I have a podcast and I have several blog posts about beta readers and how to bring in beta readers. And critique partners are two different things, but beta readers, sometimes the terms are used interchangeably. I would bring in, I call them critique partners, like people to read a few pages and say, okay, here's where I'm confused, or here's where this isn't going well. And for me, I like to ask people, authors who have written fiction in a similar genre. I would not call this book that I'm writing now rom-com by any means. I would just call it women's fiction, which is an incredibly broad category. I wanted to bring in some people or someone. It started with Neely Tubati Alexander, who read my chapter 1 and 2 probably 7 times and gave me incredible feedback every time. And now I've also brought in Anne Garvin, who is the author of like 72, but not really, but it feels like it. She's written a number of books, all of which just keep me turning pages. And so for me, it's like find someone who has written a book that's in a similar genre, so women's fiction, and whose books I really enjoy because their sense of how they put things together will probably be similar to what I will enjoy doing. And both Neely and Anne have taken issue, and by taken issue, I don't mean it as strongly as it sounds. I felt it very strongly. But with this Ferris wheel scene that's almost well, it used to be almost an entire chapter. Now it's like been condensed. Neely is nothing if not so lovingly blunt. She was like, what the hell is this? Like, why are we on I don't even understand. I'm like, don't worry, you will. And then Anne similarly was like, "This is a great scene, but like, why? Why?" So, what I have concluded from all of this is that what keeps me moving forward with this novel is that kind of feedback, because the feedback is so helpful and I'm so open to it. And every question that I get from to this point, Neely or Anne, does not leave me feeling like, oh, I wasn't supposed to do this. I'm looking at it from the perspective of I don't know what I don't know. And also what I do know is that I'm too close to it, as we all are, to see what I don't see. So I'm too close to it. Like I'm very emotionally attached to the Ferris wheel scene. Trust me. But what I don't see is the person reading it is not attached to the scene. So they have every right to be like, Liz, what the hell? Like, why are we here? Why are we doing this? So I have to find ways to work it in. All this to say, the manuscript stalls. And it can stall because you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. So then the question becomes, I went away this past weekend for 2 days, and I don't know if anyone else does this, but there's this frequent thought that I have that says, if I could just get away for a couple of days and just focus only on this manuscript and nothing else, I could get the draft written. It's never finished. Not even, I mean, because remember, I already have 50,000 words. So I'm not starting from zero. But even still, even if I were starting from zero, I could probably get this is what I think. I could get a shell eked out, beginning, middle, end, in a weekend, and then spend the next year or whatever filling in all the pieces. I don't know why I have not yet learned that that doesn't always work. It worked okay this weekend, to be clear, because I've learned some lessons. So number one, is it me, or do you check into the hotel and just think, wow, like I'm just going to turn on this TV. It made sense when all my kids were living at home. None of them is home anymore. So I'm not looking for the peace and quiet. I can't even use that as an excuse. But for some reason, I get into this hotel, which brings me to point number one. Do not book, and I didn't, the most like luxurious hotel. You will write nothing. So most people think, okay, I'm just going to book like this beautiful room with a garden view and down everything like pillows and comforters and all. I'm not saying to get like I'm not going to say any names, but I'm not saying get a bare bone. Like I have to have a good ambiance. Okay. But I didn't have a garden view which actually it might have helped. I'm not going to lie. It might have helped to have had a table like on a patio where there was a garden view. There wasn't. When I looked out the window of my hotel room, I was looking down on the hotel pool, which was about the size of a postage stamp, maybe 2 postage stamps. And there were multiple couples in the pool. Like I thought I was like, are they taping Love Island? Like so I couldn't really look away, but I also didn't want to look at it. Like it was a whole thing. So I spent some time observing that and thinking, is there a story here for my book? Like, I realized there wasn't. Then I had to catch up on the latest episode of Rooster. Y'all, if you have not watched Rooster on HBO Max with Steve Carell, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what I was doing before someone told me about it. If I'm being honest, I don't feel that the title really pulls you in. I was like, Rooster? Like what? I don't know. Now I understand why it's titled that. What pulled me in was Steve Carell. I'm like, okay, I'm in. Without going on and on, I will just say every role is cast perfectly. The acting is fantastic. It's absolutely hysterical. I've now seen each episode twice because I felt when I checked into the hotel that like it would be good research to just watch them all again. I mean, they're only 24 minutes long each or something. So just a few hours. And get the juices flowing. Then I dove in. I dove in. And here's what happens. I had just been in the manuscript a week prior, to be clear. So it's not like I had to completely reorient myself with this thing. So I pulled up Anne's most recent notes and I read them and I thought, okay, I'm ready to go. I understand the assignment. I'm in. Pull up chapter 3. I don't know what to do. And then, so I fast forwarded and I went to chapter 6 and I was like, again, who wrote this? Like, this isn't even this isn't even the same story. The character names are different. So clearly I hadn't made it to fix chapter 6. So I went sort of in between. I found a sweet spot where I could get myself engaged in the story. It was not at the chapter where I thought I was going to be able to get myself engaged, but I found a spot and I went for 4 hours. That's almost unheard of when I'm at home because the dog needs to go out or the phone is ringing. I had it on do not disturb. I was terrified that one of my children, it's like when I put the phone on do not disturb is when somebody has a major incident. It only happened one time. One time was enough where someone convinced me, and he knows who he is, and I won't say any names, but Julian Rosen convinced me to put my phone on do not disturb for just 2 hours. And at the time, Jack and Henry were seniors, juniors, I don't know, in high school. And Henry had a medical incident. He had a headache and he thought he was going to pass out. And so but I didn't know because of the do not disturb. So I've been uncomfortable putting myself on do not disturb ever since, but I did because I'm committed. So I put myself on do not disturb for a period of time. And then I even forgot I was on do not disturb. Boy, was that nice. And I went and when I looked again, it had been like 3 hours and 45 minutes. I was quite impressed with myself, I have to say. And I mean, I hadn't made it out of the chapter that I had started in, because I was doing a lot of where it's like, do what I say, not what I do. I don't recommend to myself or anyone else editing while you're writing. I don't recommend it. Sometimes I get caught up in that because I think for me, being an editor and a writer, it's hard for me to take off one hat and put on the other exclusively. I'm working on it. There are 4 points to this that I found helpful and that I think you might find helpful as well if you're feeling like you're in a stalled moment. Number 1, I've already mentioned, don't book the coziest hotel unless you're really willing to like full on commit. I mean, you know yourself best, I trust. So if that would work best for you, then great. It would not for me. So I have to have somewhere like in the middle. Number 2, have some semblance of a plan. So my plan was to sort of figure out this whole, I want to say roller coaster, and I think that that's Freudian, but the Ferris wheel situation, that was my plan, but that isn't what ended up happening. But that was the plan. So I had a place to start. I just opened to that chapter and was like, no. And so I moved on to something else, but I kept going. Point number 3 is this is not easy to do. Admittedly, at least not for me. I try to zoom way out, and I did this probably as well this past weekend as I've ever done it when working on fiction. I can get a little myopic, and this has to do with the self-editing about a specific chapter, like worrying about figuring out exactly how a scene gets from point A to point B, or exactly how a character becomes a certain thing, or why a character is a certain way. I can spend a lot of time deep diving into my brain, which is very dangerous, into how that came to be. And it is much more helpful for me to zoom way out and try to figure out. So if I have 3 elements of the book figured out, like the beginning, the middle, and maybe it's just the beginning and the middle. Can I put one more anchor in the manuscript? And then because for me, the more anchors I have, the easier it is to move between the anchors. So it's not easy for me to go from the beginning of the manuscript with fiction. And frankly, this is true of nonfiction for me as well, but fiction to the end. Like I can't see yet a character at where he or she is in the beginning of a story and know where he or she is going to be at the end. Now, I know many authors who absolutely know that. And I know many authors who know where the character is going to be at the end, but they don't know where they're going to be at the beginning. And all this is to say, we all do this differently. I used to think, oh my gosh, then I can't write fiction because I don't know where it ends. But after talking with so many fiction writers, specifically through this podcast, I've come to understand that everyone does this differently. So I've not come to understand it. I've always understood it, but I've come to deeply believe it. Like I know in the core fibers of my being now that is true. So for me, it's difficult to go from the middle all the way to the end. I need more anchors in the story. So what I spent a lot of time on this weekend was not so much writing, although there was like detailed writing, although there was that. But it was also, okay, wait. So without giving anything away, because I'm certain you're going to want to read this thing when it comes out, right? We know we're here in the story, and we know we have to get all the way down here. We don't just wake up one day and we're all the way down there. So what are the different anchor points that are going to happen? Or as people say, beats, like what are the different things that are going to happen between this and this in order to get to this? And so I spent a lot of time this weekend just breaking all that up and figuring out, well, wait a minute, how does this person connect to this person? Now, for me, that's really fun because I can go back and I can start figuring out, get ready, Anne Garvin, how the Ferris wheel scene actually works. So in other words, where do the people and the incidents that occurred on the Ferris wheel, how does that come back around later? I'll worry later about whether it comes back around too much later or not later. I'll let Anne and Neely tell me, like, you waited too long or you didn't wait long enough. But that was such a lesson for me in fiction writing. And it's something that I've been working with other authors on for so long. It's like we're great at giving therapeutic, like we're great at therapizing other people, but we're not so great at doing it with ourselves. Like I know that each chapter, it's different. It's a little bit different with nonfiction because with nonfiction, each chapter either needs to build on the chapter before or complement the chapter or chapters before, or be very clearly able to stand in isolation. And it's clear why that's its own lane within the confines of the book. With memoir and fiction, things are different, a little bit different, in that each scene, everything has to have a purpose. Everything has to have a function. It has to move the story forward. Otherwise, it's just a story that, like the Ferris wheel story, you felt compelled to put in there because you think it's fun and you're emotionally connected to it for whatever reason. The Ferris wheel story is not real life. Like that, I made the Ferris wheel story up entirely, but I'm very emotionally connected to and committed to it. So cool. I just have to figure out how do the pieces of that make it make sense, Liz. That's essentially what I had to tell myself. Make it make sense. Okay. And the last thing I'll say is this. I know from talking with a lot of authors and from having written the 6 books that I've written and now working on this one, that I'll speak to the 6 because I haven't finished the 7th yet. With the 6, it was difficult for me to let go of each of them. I thought this is a lesson I would learn and be finished learning after the first or even maybe the second, but it wasn't. It's always for me been difficult to let go of the book because I fear the greatest lesson that I'm going to learn and want to share is yet to come. That's number one. Number 2, that I haven't properly communicated what I wanna communicate in a way that it will land. Like, as a recovering people pleaser, I get nervous with nonfiction about leaving someone out, or having a reader not see themselves or misinterpret my words, or like having the book have the opposite effect that I intend for it to have. I just know that about myself. And so, still, actually, letting go of it is challenging. And what I'm noticing in writing the novel now that I didn't expect is letting go of the chapters is challenging. Like, deciding when a chapter should be the end and we should move on to the next is challenging for me. Do I have enough description? Do I not have enough description? And if I focus on that now, it will never be finished. I'm certain of it. So much of writing a book is about things that we don't even know it's about. We just don't. And it's kind of like parenting. Like, we hear other people's experience and we think, well, that'll never be me. Like, I will do it differently. And then we find ourselves in that same situation and go, oh God. So with a book, we think we just have to come up with an idea and then a structure, and then we just have to sit down and write it, and then it's going to sell millions of copies, and we're going to be beloved, and it's going to be great. There's so much else that happens regardless of the genre in which you're writing that's unexpected. And even if it's expected, it's like, oh God, here it is again. And one of my joys in this space, I find that all equally annoying and fascinating. So even when it just relates to myself, like, I really am fascinated by what makes me so annoyed by this, and why did I think this was gonna be any different? So, what this episode really is meant to be a reassurance and a validation that no matter where you are in the book writing process, and no matter what genre you're writing, you're not doing anything wrong. If it's taking you a year or a decade or your whole life to write or finish or release a book, you're not doing anything wrong. That's just your process. And I can guarantee you there is another author on the planet who has the exact same process. I can absolutely guarantee it. So just keep going. Hole yourself up in a hotel, or put yourself on DND for do not disturb for 20 minutes. I was watching last night, I saw somebody else talking about the brick, which I don't know why I always thought the brick, which for anyone who doesn't know is a little device. It's like a little square device. I don't know why I'm looking around like I can show you what it is. I don't have it yet, but it's a little square device. And you tap your phone to it, and it essentially locks you out of specific apps like Instagram and Facebook and whatever else you choose for a certain period of time. So it starts to break your addiction to the phone and allow you to focus on other things. For some reason, when I heard the brick, I literally thought that, like, it was not a literal brick, but close, like a apparatus that you would, I don't know, put your phone in and shut it, like a phone case of sorts that you couldn't get into your phone. It kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety, if I'm being honest. But I'm thinking this brick thing might be for me too, because if I think about and I'm honest about how much time I spend doing non-book writing things that could be better spent just working on one line or one anchor of this book, I am certain I could get this thing finished sooner than it feels like. And my goal is to finish this draft by the end of the year. It's what month are we in? I mean, who knows? April. So, I mean, someone hold me to that, please, because I have 3 other ideas, and you surely do too, of books I want to write after this one, but I've committed to myself, I will not write another book until I finish this one. So, if you're in that stalled period, you're not at all alone. If you're writing memoir or nonfiction, I have a series of prompts that helps you get either out of the stalled and or more into what are you doing and why is it important to you. And that alone typically revs up people's energy around it It's called the Can't Stop Writing Formula. The link is in the show notes. It's on my website. I talk about it often on Instagram. And if you find a magic bullet for this thing, please send it over. I'd love it. But in the meantime, let's all just like join arms and hold hands and vow to take this one paragraph, one anchor, one sentence, one chapter, one thought at a time and get the books written. All right, everybody, I will talk to you again next week.